Good morning, children. So, this is part 3 of the chapter Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, that is GAAP. This is the last part of this chapter in which we are going to study the remaining 7 of the accounting concepts. Let us start. The first is verifiable objective or objectivity concept. This concept states that whatever we are recording in the books of accounts, that should be authentic, that should be free from any kind of biasness on the part of the accountant, and whatever we are recording in the books of accounts, that should be supported, that should be backed by the proof such as bills, vouchers, etc. This concept requires that accounting transaction should be recorded in an objective manner that is free from any personal biasness of either management or the accountant who prepares the accounts. It is possible only and only if each transaction is supported by the verifiable documents such as vouchers, cash memos, bills, invoices, pay slips, etc. The next concept is cost concept or historical cost concept. Basically, this concept is related to the fixed asset. This concept states that since the business is going to continue for an indefinite period of time and we are purchasing fixed asset for use in the production process and not for resale, therefore this concept states that the fixed assets should be recorded at their cost or their original cost, or we can say historical cost, that means at the cost at which they were initially purchased, and time to time whatever the reduction is there in its value, that should be deducted from the original cost by way of depreciation, and ultimately the book value which will come deducting depreciation till the date from the original cost, that book value will be recorded ultimately in the balance sheet. As you can read, according to this concept, an asset is ordinarily recorded in the books of accounts at the price at which it was acquired. This cost becomes the basis of all subsequent accounting for the asset. Their cost is systematically reduced from year to year by charging depreciation. This is due to passage of time or the usage, and the assets are shown in the balance sheet at cost less depreciation. That means depreciation is deducted from their original cost, and whatever value which is known as book value, that is shown in the asset side of the balance sheet. What is book value? Book value means the value which is left after deducting depreciation from the original cost. So this is cost or the historical cost concept. The next concept is the matching concept. According to this concept, in determining the net profit from business operations, all costs which are applicable to revenue of the period should be charged against that revenue. Basically, it means that this concept states that all the expenses should be compared with the respective revenue so as to arrive at the profit or loss. If the expenses are more than the revenue, that means it is a loss. If revenues are more than the expenses, that means it is a profit, and if there are no difference between revenue and expenses, they both are equal, then in that case it will be a situation of no profit or no loss. Following points must be considered while matching costs with revenue. The first point which needs to be considered is when an item of revenue is included in the profit and loss account, all expenses incurred on it, whether paid or not, should be shown as an expense in the profit and loss account. On the basis of this principle, outstanding expenses, though not paid in cash, are shown in the profit and loss account. This point says or means that whatever revenue we are recording in the profit and loss account or in the trading account, the corresponding revenue related to it shall also be recorded, whether actual cash has been paid for it or not, whether actual cash has been received from it or not. This is the reason why, according to this concept only, why outstanding expenses, means those expenses which are yet to be paid off, are also recorded by adding it to the respective expense in the profit and loss account. The second point is when some expense, say insurance premium, is paid partially for the next year also, the part relating to next year will be shown as an expense only next year and not this year. Means this is somewhat in relation to accrual concept also, that even if you are paying the expense in the current year for the next year, then too only and only the current year expenses will be recorded, and the amount which you have paid for the next year will be recorded as an expense in the next year only when it is related. That means according to the matching concept, we will compare all the current year expenses only with the current year revenue. This means that part of the insurance premium against which benefit will be derived or revenue will be earned in future should be shown in the balance sheet as an asset, and the rest is treated as an expense during the year. That means the expense which you have paid in advance for the next year shall be treated as an expense only in the next year, but in current year it can be treated as an asset because you have fulfilled your duty beforehand. The third point, cost of the goods remaining unsold at the end of the year, that is closing stock, together with the expenses incurred on it, must be carried forward to the next year, as these goods will be sold only during the next period. As such, the closing stock is carried over to the next year or next period as opening stock. It means that those goods which are lying unsold, that means which we could not sell, so we cannot treat it as revenue or we cannot treat it as sales because yet we have not been able to sell it. So we will be able to sell it only in the next year. So therefore it will be treated as closing stock. That means the stock lying unsold at the end of the accounting year, and whatever expense have been incurred on it, that too will be transferred as a part of closing stock to the next accounting year, and the closing stock of current year becomes the, by default it becomes the opening stock of the next year. The next point, the D point. Similarly, incomes receivable must be added in revenues and incomes received in advance must be deducted from revenues. Just like expense, if there are any outstanding revenue, that means you have given the service, you have given the goods, but have not received the payment or revenue in cash, but you are liable or you are eligible to receive it in cash. That means it is an outstanding income or outstanding revenue. So though you have not received it, but it pertains to the current year expenses, therefore you will record it in the current year as a part of your current year revenue. And any revenue which you have received in advance for the next year, for which you have not given the goods, you have not given the service, so that revenue doesn't pertain to the expense of the current year, and therefore it will not be a revenue of current year, rather it will be recorded as a revenue only in the next year. So in such a situation, you can show it as a liability in the balance sheet but not as a revenue. And why liability? Because you have received the income in advance, you have not given the service, you have not given the good. So now you are liable, since you have received the payment in advance, you are liable to sell the goods or to render the services the next year. So this was matching concept. The next concept is dual aspect concept, or we can also call it as dual aspect principle. This is one of the most important concept. It is the concept on which your double entry system or accounting is totally based upon. Dual aspect concept states that every transaction has dual or two aspects. One is debit and one is credit, and the debit shall always be equal to its credit. And this is the reason why even the balance sheet, because we show asset and liability, so even the balance sheet, the assets and liabilities are equal. This is according to the dual aspect concept. As you can see, according to this concept, every transaction affects at least two accounts. If one account is debited, any other account must be credited. That means there has to be two aspects. The system of recording transactions based on this concept is called double entry system. So what is double entry system? A double entry system is the system or the recording of transaction based on the dual aspect concept. It is because of this principle that the two sides of the balance sheet, that is liabilities and assets, are always equal, and the following accounting equation will always hold good at any point of time. That means after any transaction, if you measure, the equation will hold good, means assets will be equal to liabilities, or asset will be equal to liabilities plus capital, or capital will be equal to asset minus liabilities. Because in the balance sheet we show two sides only, asset and liability side. So according to dual aspect principle, asset and liabilities must be equal, and capital is a part of liability. So we can say that liability and capital together are equal to asset, and when we deduct liability from assets, we get the remaining amount as capital. So this was dual aspect concept. The next concept is concept of timeliness. It is good to prepare the books of accounts. It is good to prepare or incorporate all the rules, regulations, but it is a complete failure if you cannot provide the books of accounts at the correct time. Since we have studied the accounting period concept in the last part, that at every regular interval, at every end of 12 months, the business enterprise is required to furnish its books of accounts. So that means at the end of every 12 months, without much a delay, the enterprise should show the books of account. So this is concept of timeliness. It states that after the expiry of the accounting period, as soon as the accounting period ends, without much a delay, the books of account shall be prepared, and it should be offered to the various users of accounting. As you can read, it requires that the financial statement should be prepared quickly at the end of the accounting period and made available to the management and other external users at the earliest possible time. The next concept, this is the comparatively a new concept, that is industry practice. It states that whatever uh, 12 concepts we have discussed till now, just before industry practice, 7 we have discussed in the last part, and remaining 5 up till now, till concept of timeliness. All these concepts no doubt are universally accepted by the accountants in all the enterprise, but besides these, if any industry is accustomed to a certain amount, a certain rules or certain methodology, that means it is already having some kind of accounting practice which it is following, then in that case that industry will be following that particular principles or methodology. As you can read, sometimes the unique characteristics or the peculiar nature of an industry requires the departure from accounting principles discussed above to report the true results of the business. That means sometimes maybe the nature of an enterprise is such that if we follow the above concepts discussed, above 12 concepts discussed, then it might not show the true results as accurate as it could have been. Likewise, there may be a particular practice in an industry which is continuing for quite a long time. That means such industries are already practicing certain kind of principles, concepts, regulation. So every firm in that industry must adopt the accounting practice prevailing in that industry. So in such a case, any firm which is a part of that industry, firm is an individual producing unit and industry is the collection of firm. Suppose if there are 5 uh, sugar manufacturing units. So if we talk about one sugar manufacturing unit, that is a firm. But if we talk about all 5 sugar manufacturing units altogether, it becomes an industry. So whatever practice the sugar industry is already following, any firm entering into that industry will have to practice what already the sugar industry is practicing. So this is the concept of industry practice. It states that whatever methodology or whatever practices the industry is making or practicing, entire firms will be practicing the same. The last concept is substance over legal form. It is also a new concept, just like the one which we have discussed right now, that is industry practice. In this case, the transaction and other events should be accounted for and presented according to their substance and financial reality and not according to their legal form. That means whatever we are recording in the books of accounts, according to this concept, the substance, the importance, the monetary aspect of it should be taken into account and not the legal part. There are some business transactions of which the legal form is different from the fundamental commercial reality or substance. In such transactions, substance is preferred to the form for accounting purpose. There may be certain number of transactions whereby the legal form is something else, but the substance form, the reality form, is something else. So in that case, we will be preferring the reality form and not the legal form. For example, in hire purchase transactions where people purchase anything on hire, they hire it and pay the charge. Although the asset is delivered to the hire purchaser immediately on signing the agreement, but he does not become the legal owner of the asset until he has paid the last installment. What happens in hire purchase? The hirer or the whosoever is hiring the machine or anything which he is purchasing on installment basis, he gets the possession as soon as he enters into the agreement, but the ultimate ownership is passed to him only and only when he makes the last installment. So the substance form is that it is just like a credit sales. Goods have been transferred, the possession has been transferred to the purchaser, and the payment is yet to be received. But the legal form is such that no doubt the possession has been transferred, but the ownership is still with the seller. So in this case, the legal and the substance form are different, but we will be recording the substance form, we will be treating it as a credit sales. For example, continuing with it, in hire purchase transactions, although the asset is delivered to the hire purchaser immediately on signing the agreement, he does not become the legal owner of the asset until he has paid the last installment. So, the legal form of these is that it is treated as a hire charge till the payment of last installment is received. So, substance form of such transaction, it is just a normal credit sales with the ownership clause, which is important only if the purchaser makes default in the payment of installment. That means if the purchaser defaults or fails to make the payment, then only it will be taken back. Otherwise, it can be treated just as a mere credit sales and be recorded in the books of account. So these were the remaining 7 concepts which we have discussed in this part. Altogether, there are 14 accounting concepts and 3 accounting conventions. So I hope all the concepts and conventions are clear to you, children. This is the assignment. Based on this part, you have to answer the following question in your register. You have to write short notes on number 1, verifiable objective or objectivity concept. So this concept states that whatever we are recording in the books of accounts, that should be free from any kind of personal biasness, either on the part of the management or on the part of the accountant. That means whatever we are recording in the books of accounts shall be verifiable. That means it must be capable of being verified with the help of the vouchers, the bills, pay slips, cash memos, etc. The second one is cost concept or historical cost concept. So this concept states that since we are assuming that business will continue for an indefinite period of time, therefore whatever assets, fixed assets we are recording in the books of accounts, they must be recorded at their original cost, and certain pre-decided amount of depreciation should be recorded from the original cost at regular intervals in every accounting year due to passage of time and wear outs or duration of time, usage, etc. And after deducting the depreciation from the original cost, the remaining book value shall be shown on the asset side of the balance sheet. The next one is matching concept. It states that all the current year expenses shall be matched compared with the current year revenue. That means if we are recording any revenue of an accounting year, the corresponding expense shall also be recorded in the profit and loss account or trading account as the case may be. And we have discussed that according to this concept, all the next year uh, or the future year related expenses or income shall be shown as an asset or liability in the current year and not as an expense or revenue. Rather, it should be shown as an expense or revenue in the next year. And if there are any expenses or revenues outstanding for the current year, then that should also be recorded as a part of their respective revenue or expense. The next one is dual aspect concept. Dual aspect concept states that every transaction has two aspects, one debit and one credit. And at the end, the debit shall always be equal to its credit. It is this concept on which the double entry system is based. It is this concept on which the two sides of balance sheet, that is asset and liabilities, are equal at any given point of time. And it is because of this concept only that the accounting equation asset is equal to liability, asset is equal to liabilities plus capital, or capital is equal to asset minus liabilities holds good. The next one is concept of timeliness. This concept states that as soon as the accounting period ends, without much a delay, the books of accounts shall be prepared and shall be furnished to the different users of accounting information. Next one is industry practice. It states that besides the rest of the accounting concepts, an industry might follow its own practice which might show better, true, accurate financial results. So, in such a case, any firm which is a part of that industry needs to follow that particular industrial practice. And the last one is substance over legal form. There may be certain transactions where the substance form is different from legal form. So in that case, we are going to incorporate the substance form and we are going to prefer substance form over legal form. Here you can cite an example that in case of hire purchase transactions, the goods at the time of agreement, the possession of the goods are transferred to the hire purchaser, but the ownership is transferred only and only after the payment of the last installment. So the substance form of this transaction is that the possession has been transferred to the purchaser and the last installment is yet to be received. But the legal form is the ownership has not been transferred. So in this case, the substance form will be preferred and it will be recorded just like a credit says on which the payment is yet to be received unless and until the purchaser fails to make the payment. So I hope the concepts and the answers are clear to you. Go through the video once again, part 1, part 2, part 3. Revise all the concepts and convention, learn them, understand them, and do complete all your written work, children. Thank you. Take care.